race and talk about some of the top teams and top individuals that are here. In this case, the top two teams in the country not here at pre-nationals, but Carrie, that doesn't mean that we're not seeing pretty much the best of the rest.
Yeah, no Oklahoma State or BYU, both ranked 1 and 2. But yeah, we have, 3, 4, 5, and 6 here. Arkansas being the one we have to give the nod to. They have a big punch up front, but also just a great squad. Their spread is real tight. And so I think I look at them. But Iowa State is one that you can't ever forget. And also just they've had a good year already. So there's still some teams. I mean, for us to not mention NAU is, I think, silly. But also it might be one of those years where they are in a rebuild. Mike Smith always puts together great squads, but they are human and they have to have years where they're not always number one.
And you look down at number 20 on the right side of the column. That is Harvard, and one of the reasons that they're ranked among the best teams in the country is because they have this man, Graham Blanks, who we will finally see out on a cross-country course here in Wisconsin today.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how he races. He had a phenomenal summer making that Olympic team and had a long summer though. So it's nice. I think he did take his break and he, enjoyed life a little bit. And well, not that he's not enjoying life as a runner, but you know what I mean? He had to come down from that big emotional roller coaster ride. And now he can get back to putting that Harvard jersey on, which we all know he loves. But Habtom Samuel obviously having a great year and just last year looking so phenomenal at NCAAs with his runner-up finish. He's always a threat. And Yego, Kiprop, those two are so fun to watch when they're in a race together. And we haven't quite seen Kiprop yet this year, but he's always up there. And Yego was 13th last year. Kiprop was 7th last year at NCAAs. So just two really great athletes.
And there's a look at Kiprop in his Arkansas singlet, getting set to race here over, again, 8,000 meters, slightly under the championship distance of 10,000 meters. But, the other thing we're going to see unfold here as maybe we reflect on what we saw in the women's race is, some of these younger athletes, the freshmen, the sophomores, starting to make names for themselves and, not suggesting for one moment that just because I'm a younger member of a squad that I'm necessarily not going to be non-competitive coming into these championship races. There's the group from Harvard with Graham Blanks there on the
his newly
far right side of your screen.
There.
Final moments.
Did you see that?
What were those conversations like? What were those conversations like, Carrie, at the start line? What were you guys talking about as a team?
Oh, it was always, it was so funny because I went to Villanova Catholic University and we always had just this excitement that was crazy. And every now and then you'd see maybe like a word that we shouldn't say out loud just to get us fired up. And so we had, there were some intense conversations, but also just so much fun and love for one another. That's the thing. Like, you don't always have to like one another on teams, but you do have this sense of family. And I loved those last minute conversations of let's go. We've been working so hard for this. This is when the time is to shine.
There's a look at Kirami Yego of Arkansas, the senior, second straight win at Chili Pepper, back-to-back victories. And we showed the highlights earlier in the broadcast, was absolutely all by himself in the final stages of this race. As we get inside 2 minutes before the gun is fired here in Wisconsin for the pre-nationals A race on the men's side. If you're just tuning in, we just witnessed a new course record on the women's side. Pamela Koske of New Mexico, the freshman, first woman ever to traverse this course at 6,000 meters under 19 seconds, and the top 6 women also under the previous course record that was set last year by Florida's Parker Valby. BYU taking the team title on the women's side over Washington and NAU. And we'll just put it out there as we work our way across these starting boxes for this 8K men's race. The course record here pretty fresh, as it was set by Parker Wolfe in winning his first Nuttycombe Championship just a few weeks ago. 23:04 was his winning time. Not putting any pressure on the guys, but after what we saw on the women's side, suspicion here, Carrie, is the conditions are set up and the competition is set up for something that could be pretty special.
Oh, I think so. And I'm sure if they did catch the end of the women's race, they know it's fast out there. They're taking that into consideration. But quick nod to Ben Shearer. He runs for Arkansas. He is the defending champion of this race, and he is back in the lineup.
And of course, Pre-Nationals works its way around the country to the various sites that are the hosts of the national meet. And last year it was at the University of Virginia, a great event that was held there. Carrie, you were involved in that broadcast. But this Charles Zimmer Championship course, already having been a site of the NCAA Championships, going to welcome the best in the country. And who knows what those conditions will be like in the third week of November, a little over a month away, as we reach the final week of the collegiate regular season, and we see the gun up, the men ready for pre-nats here in Wisconsin. And the racing underway in Madison, Wisconsin. Pre-nationals for 2024. Some of the top teams in the country here get a test of this course, over 8,000 meters, before they hope to be back representing their squads or perhaps individually to race for a national title in November. As we get the racing underway, we'll populate the left side of your screen with the entries from the various teams, and we again look across these squads, and going to be some names we recognize, like a Ben Shearer, Kirami, Yego, and others at the University of Arkansas, but their team is deep, 2 pages deep. And again, one of the reasons that these races are so important is finding out who are going to be those 5, 6, 7 racers that you're going to throw into some of these championship races that are coming up in the next sequential weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other factor is they go from 8K in this preseason to 10K in the championship season. And that is a big jump. A lot of athletes, you might see some of the younger athletes do really well over 8K, but they might need a year or two to figure out that 10K distance. So it is interesting, Paul, to make note that today is 8K, but the next time they're here, they will run 2K longer.
Try to recapture that signal with the Gator here momentarily as they work their way through this early part of the race, just 90 seconds in, as they'll race over 8,000 meters through this Thomas Zimmer Championship race course. Great course setup, too, for spectators, Carrie, and that is often the race within the race. How many different spots on the course can you get to watch this racing unfold? And already seeing a little bit of pace pushing here out in the front.
And no surprise to see the Arkansas guys up front there. But, one quick note, Wisconsin men did not run Nuttycombe, a month ago. And it is partly because this course is hard. We do see the hills. We do see maybe they're not super steep, but they are constantly going, and it beats your body up. So it's interesting that even the home team decided to wait till pre to actually get out here, even though they know the course. They didn't want to get beat up too many times before nationals. So it goes to show you that this race is tough. This course is tough.
Trying to recapture those pictures from the lead Gator here. It was Kirami Yego of Arkansas with the lead. Our live results will populate beginning at 2,000 meters. We'll also have splits at 4,000 and 600 as well. She's now seeing emerging from that little tree-lined area are the leaders. We see Graham Blanks up there among the leaders as well in his season's debut for Harvard.
Well, it's fun to watch Graham Blanks run. I mean, he's calculated, he's smart, he's, excited about it. He loves his training, he loves his teammates, but he really does thrive in races, and you can see that. Even when we watched him at the trials, Paul, you and I both were able to watch him in Paris, but the way he fights, and he stays within himself, but he fights for every single position. He wins a lot of races at the collegiate level, but not always, and he's always fighting to be closer to the front, which I think is such a great example. You might not always win them, but you have to try to fight for second, third, fourth, whatever you can get.
I was struck by how connected this entire group of runners are in the early going. As we get back into picture and contact with the leaders, David Malarkey of Northern Arizona among the leaders up there for the Lumberjacks, as NAU obviously trying to assert themselves here in the early going in the men's team race. 4.5 minutes now elapsed, but Arkansas currently first and second, with Blanks of Harvard there in third.
So the taller one of the Arkansas guys, Kiprop, he was 7th last year. This is his season debut. He did not race at Chili Pepper with his teammate, but you know, these two, they race a lot together, and it's interesting to see the teamwork that they have whenever they do. I watched them race last year at SECs. There's some conversation that's being had here and there, but just interesting to see the difference right now. You can see almost like that Yego, who has raced already, seems a little bit more calm and in the front. And I think Kiprop right now is just probably sort of running into this race. He hasn't raced yet. It always hurts in your very first race of the season. It's like, oh, we really have to go there? Okay, here we go.
So coming up on the first 2 kilometer split here, they'll reach it just a shade over 5.5 minutes in, as we keep an eye on Kiprop and Yego, the two from Arkansas, with Graham, Blanks, Malarkey, and others. Bernard Chariot of Tulane, I believe, is up there among the leaders now, confirmed in 5th position. Habtom Samuel of New Mexico has run strong here in previous events, including Nuttycombe a year ago. Zagarski of Butler. Robin Quimo-Berra, who went out to a very quick, early, fast pace in the Nuttycombe race just a few weeks ago, now settling into the top 10 in 8th. Davis Bove and Vincent Shearer rounding out the top 10, and then those team scores populating as well. So 2K through this race, again, 8 kilometers, so a quarter of the way through the race. New Mexico, Arkansas, and the Stanford Cardinal currently in third. NAU in a comfortable position there in 4th. Notre Dame back in 5th. Harvard in 6th. Iowa State, Syracuse, Wyoming, and Colorado. That is the top 10, 2,000 meters into this 8-kilometer race.
Well, Habtom Samuel being in that pack is a great place to be. You know, he's opened up his year with a nice year. He was 2nd at the Cowboy Jamboree behind Brian Massau, who's actually ranked #1 in the country right now. Partly, I think, because we haven't quite seen what Graham Blanks, the NCAA champ, has done. But, you know, to have that confidence coming into a race like this, knowing that you're right where you want to be, whether it is breaking the tape first or being second, but just having that excitement, you know, you have to talk about Habtom Samuel. And he is kind of just tucked in there, watching what's going on up front.
And that 5:33 for the first 2,000 meters, a pretty quick pace, again, as we'll keep an eye throughout this race on where they are in relation to that course record that was set by Parker Wolfe just a couple of weeks ago at Nuttycombe, 23:04. As we get to that section of the course again where the signal kind of degrades a little bit as we attempt to bring you those live pictures as best we can. We'll get back to the live coverage in a moment when that signal is restored. Meantime, in the lower left of your screen, the course tracker and athletics elevation tracker on the bottom there. A nice new feature we've added to broadcast coverage here in 2024. Gives you a sense of kind of there on that downhill. There's, 3 primary climbs in this 8,000 meter distance for the men, and those are moments on the course that we typically see some of the tactics installed by the pre-race discussions with coaches come into play as some athletes choose to attack those hills or attack those downhills as a way to change their fortunes in the race.
Oh, I think it's great if you can use the course to your advantage. I loved attacking hills, and a lot of athletes do. The athletes that are maybe more of those middle distance runners, the ones that have a little bit of a more power behind that quick step, they like to get up those hills and even chop it on the way down. but I love the strength runners as well. This is why cross country is so much fun, and especially over 8K. You kind of have the 3K, 5K athletes, even 1,500 meter runners that can work their way up to 8K and be able to use that strength and speed. But then you have those true 10,000 meter runners, even the runners that might be better at half and marathon down the road. They come together and they just kill each other. It's awesome. I miss it so much, Paul.
Well, remains Arkansas with Kiprop and Yego 1 and 2. Yego, again, that second consecutive win at Chili Pepper down in Arkansas on his home course just a couple of weeks ago, won by 22 seconds. And, you know, we see in some of those early season races, individual athletes having really either breakthrough performances or dominant performances. But what I love about the championship season, whether it be collegiate, elite, or even down to the high school level, is you get to these types of races with like pre-nationals or regional championships, and you look left and you look right, and suddenly you're not alone anymore.
For sure. There are bodies everywhere, and it is different when you're a younger athlete and used to being up front, not hearing people breathe around you from your state or wherever you've raced. So you definitely have to have the mentality to be okay with that. But yeah, it's interesting. This is a huge pack. You said it. They really haven't broken apart by now. In the women's race, we had a little bit of separation. There, it's anybody's day right now.
So nearing 10 and a half minutes elapsed here on the clock as we close in on getting ourselves to the halfway mark of this race. See the rest of the field in that bottom part of your screen as we keep an eye on some of the top teams in the country as we look out for their third, fourth, fifth, perhaps even sixth and seventh. Most of these teams bringing a pretty large contingent of runners. Only the top 5 will score, but many of those athletes, even the ones who don't finish in the top 5, Carrie, are looking to make a statement, more so maybe to their coaching staffs than anything else, because, you know, effectively there's going to be some cut-down decisions happening here pretty quickly as we move into the conference championship and the championship run to the NCAAs in November.
I think the big thing is consistency, whether you're consistent in your workouts and your races, but just showing your coach that you are reliable. You know, having a big day is great, but if you can't back it up time and time again, that's really tough. So athletes that are watching right now, making sure you just try to not do anything crazy on big races like this. And that's everybody. We've heard it from the top, from Ed Eyestone, Mike Smith, all of the coaches just want athletes just to do what they know best, and that's run the race they're supposed to run. So today is a big day, but nobody wants you to do anything that you've never done before. They want you just to be consistent.
Well, officially, Kirami Yego is the leader at the halfway mark through in 11:23, and I know there's not a consistent part of the course for the second half of the race as it was for the first half of the race, but halfway home they are under the pace of the course record. Parker Wolfe ran 23:04 just a couple of weeks ago, and we're putting focus on that racing record just because of what we witnessed in that women's race with 6 women under the previous course record. And the way this race is shaping up at the front, a host of names could be making a bid for that win and that course record. Yego, Chariot of Tulane, who is a freshman. Samuel, the sophomore from New Mexico. Kiprop making his season's debut for Arkansas. Quemo Barra running a very sensible race here, having learned a little bit from having been on this course for Nuttycombe a couple of weeks ago. Bob Liking is in the mix here for the host squad from Wisconsin. Vincent Cheer, Justin Kipkowicz, Yassine Abdalle, and Carter Solomon of Notre Dame rounding out the top 10. There are our first and seconds on the team side. NAU in second with a spread of just under 10 seconds. Arkansas with a spread of even a shorter time span of 8.2 seconds. So those two squads delivering very consistent and very quality performances from getting those low sticks in the early going, but still a half a race to run here, Carrie, and maybe starting to see a little bit of movement and separation from this lead pack now as they are trying to take themselves into a position where they start to dwindle the numbers in the lead pack.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, one name that starting to fall back just a little bit, but his coach, Coach Myers from Tulane, says, don't forget about this dude. He even called him that. He said, this is one that folks need to know. Bernard Chariot, he's the one in that turquoise blue right off the pack there, those front 6 guys, but he's new, and a lot of people are wondering, what can this guy do? We've seen him up front here. It's still a long ways to go in this race, but that's a name that we should maybe keep an eye on.
Passing 14 minutes on the clock as the leaders up above, the rest of the field down below. With a lot of racing still to run, a lot of those team scores now finally populating all 5 of the runners. So looking at that team, you see the top 4 in Arkansas, NAU, Notre Dame, and Stanford. Then it's New Mexico, Iowa State, Utah State has moved up 4 spots in the last 2K and now is in 7th. Host squad from Wisconsin 8th, Syracuse in 9th, and Colorado currently in 10th position. You know, the one guy that we didn't mention in that top 10 carry is Graham Blanks of Harvard in his season's debut.
Yeah, he's definitely there. You can see him, might not be showing up in the results right now, but he is there. He's in the middle of the pack, right where I like to see him. You know, as this is his first race, clearly we know that he works out hard. If anyone's ever read some of his workouts, they are wild at times and really fun to watch, but he might just be using this as a workout. You know, if he is as fit as we've seen him before, this might be where he's just biding his time and getting through these initial races of the season.
Yeah, noting and pointing out, thank you, Carrie, that he's still very much in that lead group of runners. So just with the official results that we're populating on the screen, take it as unofficial, because if he's not showing up in the standings, then Harvard's not getting the right placings for their top 5 runners. That has an impact and a cascading effect on all the other teams that are behind Graham Blanks in the standings. So hopefully that'll get rectified here as we get close to the 6,000 meter mark, as we've elapsed 16 minutes on the clock here in Madison, Wisconsin at the Zimmer Championship course, and getting set here for the closing stretches of this pre-national race. And in the front of the pack remains Kiprop.
Kiprop has really taken advantage of the hills and really worked those. You can see now that he's got those long legs. He's really chopping up using his arms, but trying to spread it out. You can see that. He looks good, but he's got a mission. I mean, he was 7th at NCAA's last year. He was one of the top guys, so you know that he wants to come back and make a statement. And he knows his teammate Yego's right on his shoulder there. They're used to running with each other. Oh, no, he's not right on his shoulder. He's actually about 3 or 4 back, so he probably can't hear him. So it's just interesting, though, to see that Kiprop is going for it early on.
We're right at 17 minutes, and we're coming up on 6K.
Coming up on 6K here, right at about 17 minutes. There is the 6K split. So Kiprop comes through in 17:01.7, followed by Samuel, Kipkoech, Quemo-Berra, Yego, and Graham Blanks in that grouping as well, as he's actually in 2nd. So again, Blanks not populating on the live results here, and that'll have an impact on the team scoring. But right now, Arkansas looking like they're doing very well on the team side, but the racing here at the front is getting very quick with just 2 kilometers to go, and that's 6,000 meters of 17:01.7. We'll see how that racing plays out here as they go after that course record of Parker Wolfe's 23:04.
What a beautiful day it is to race out here. You have to take advantage of those days, traveling all that way for many of the athletes coming near and far. But this is one that it's been interesting to see Kiprop and Grams. Both those two have not raced this year, and they have been leading the way every single step of it. Berra from Iowa State having a good year. He was at Nutty. They were 2nd to BYU, but they said as a team, Iowa State did not get out hard enough. I'm surprised to not see more Iowa State guys up a little bit closer to the front.
As they look on that athletic course tracker, that low point now to the final major climb of this race, as they'll have just a little bit over a K to go when they get themselves up and away from that last stretch of the course. We'll lose contact with the signal for just a moment, so we'll keep an eye on that course tracker as well as the elevation tracker. Arkansas with Stanford now in second, New Mexico in third, Northern Arizona in fourth. Again, all that unofficial as they come through. What, maybe 7 guys in that lead pack now left, Carrie?
Yeah, it looks like there's still quite a few in there. And now, right as we say, a bear goes up to the front. Might have heard me say that they didn't get out hard enough. Now he's going for it. But, you know, yeah, there's still quite a few athletes, but not a lot of teammates besides the Arkansas guys. That, to me, is a little surprising with the caliber of athletes and teams that we have here today.
Well, this has been a scorching pace at the front, so not unsurprising. We're starting to see a little bit of carnage in this lead group as people fall off the back. Look at that distance that lead group of, what, 6, 7 guys now has on the rest of the field. No one has ever covered this course of 8,000 meters in under 23 seconds. And, Carrie, this is looking like it's going to be a sub-23-minute performance to get themselves a victory. And now we've got a big move by Samuel of New Mexico, and Blank's trying to cover it.
Well, these two went 1 and 2 at the NCAAs last year. They know each other. They know that they were probably thinking about each other in this race. So not surprising to see Samuel go for it. He's a little bit more finely tuned up than Graham. Graham did get to race later in the season at the Olympic Games, mind you, but Samuel has had a few races already this year. So there's just, you know, they're coming here maybe at a different spot. Confidence might be a little bit higher with having the Olympic rings tattooed to your back. But, you know, these two know each other and they're looking at each other, and he's definitely putting distance on.
Well, we saw a little bit of a breakaway in the women's race by Olomomoy of Florida, only to see her get caught in the final 200 meters from behind by the freshman Koske from New Mexico. Here is Samuel, the sophomore from New Mexico, coming down off of that gentle sweeping hill, and he's got himself a bit of a lead now here, Carrie, maybe more so than we saw in that women's race. And he takes a big look around, but he still sees the NCAA champion in Graham Blanks, and Blanks not allowing him to get too much further ahead, but it's going to take a lot of effort here in the closing stretch. It was less than a half kilometer to go.
Well, Samuel, look at how hard he's working. He is trying to put it away, and I like it. I like that he took command, and he tried to make a move, and he's doing it really hard. He's going as hard as he can right now. He's not going to have a breather, but he might not have to continue to press this hard if he breaks everybody. And he looks, Paul, like he's breaking everybody right now.
And he makes that sweeping turn into the finish chute as the top individuals come into the final stretch of the race. We'll keep an eye on that time on the clock, 23:04 by Parker Wolfe. And just like in the women's race, Carrie, we're going to see just an absolute destruction of the course record here. Habtom Samuel with the race for the top 5 getting a little bit more interesting here in the final close. But another look behind, and now the celebration begins for the sophomore from New Mexico, as Habtom Samuel's going to absolutely crush the course record in a shade over 22 and a half minutes. Blanks under that previous course record as well. And just like the women's race, Carrie, that performance at the front carrying everyone across the line to performances well under the previous fastest time ever run in the history of this fabulous championship race course in Madison.
8 men under that course record of Parker Wolfe. You know, that was what I was saying when I thought Samuel was going for it so hard. He almost was kicking harder with 1,000 to go than he was with 100 meters to go. He did let up. He did get to celebrate. He put him away, and he is going to be very confident going into the big dance. That was a great race.
And now into that final... Sorry, that final shoot here, Carrie, as I keep an eye on that upper part of the data stream for all of the top teams now. At least 4 of their men officially through. Graham Blanks was official across the line in second, so we have him in those official results that are coming through, so that helps make sure that the confidence of these unofficial scores will hold together as they continue to populate. And Arkansas right now unofficially with 89 points, taking the victory here at pre-nationals. Iowa State, Stanford, New Mexico, NAU there back in fifth. Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Syracuse, Cal Baptist, and Harvard. That is your unofficial top 10 as the results continue to come through. And you can see the spread, 48.6 seconds for Arkansas, Kiprop, Yego, and Abdalle. 3 low sticks in the top 10 for the Razorbacks. Wisconsin back in 6th. Had a good run from Liking, finishing in 6th. And then the bulk of their 2nd through 5th runners back of the leaders. But if this holds on, Arkansas with, the addition of Kiprop into this race for the first time, we knew with Kirami Yego's performance at Chili Pepper that this squad had some good talent, but now they've added more to it, and they looked very good today here and trying to, make those Oklahoma State and BYU runners at least semi-nervous that they're going to get some pretty good competition from the rest of the top teams in the country, most notably Arkansas here when it comes to championship racing season in November.
Yeah, we didn't even mention Yassine Abdalle. I mean, a guy that we should be talking about. He was 3rd for Arkansas, but such a solid top 3 there, and 4 and 5 coming through for Arkansas. Really, really big race. But you can see, I mean, it's a hard course. Look, we've seen a couple athletes head to their knees. This is why I think the Wisconsin men decided not to open up at Nutty. They decided to hold off, come here, race really hard, finish 6th. That was a great showing for them. And yeah, I mean, it is tough. Look at these athletes. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, sunny day, temperatures up near 60 plus degrees here, but you can see the toll that it's taken on some of the runners here in the final stages of the last few from the A race getting across the line. Those results continue to populate on the bottom of your screen, and as Carrie mentioned, the first 8 across the line, all under the previous course record set by Parker Wolfe just a couple of weeks ago. You've got some work to do, Carrie, getting ready for that NCAA championship, because I think this thing's going to be just an absolute slugfest, both individually and on the team side.
For sure. I mean, we haven't seen Oklahoma State here. We didn't see BYU here. I mean, BYU just put, what was it, their top? They basically just crushed everyone at Dellinger. It's going to be interesting to see who runs well. But I do think it's great to have the course, pre-nationals, all of that behind you now. These athletes are definitely going to benefit from being here.
Keeping the camera here on the finish line. If you're keeping an eye on a runner you've tuned in to follow, as we'll get set to hear from our winner, Habtom Samuel, here in just a moment. So not lost on me too, Carrie, is it's been a pretty good day for the state of New Mexico and the University of New Mexico, with wins by Samuel and in the earlier race by Koske, both in new course records. But on a day that was set up for near perfect conditions, and with the stakes growing ever higher in the collegiate cross